Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Today we are in New Jersey, and we are with Theresa Inacker. Did I say that right?
Yes, Inacker. Yes.
I said Inacker.
That's okay.
Inacker. Mm-hmm. I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable?
That's okay.
That's all right. So Theresa Inacker, she is with the CNJFO?
Correct. Coalition
of New Jersey Firearms Owners?
Yes.
And we are going to spend some time talking about her, the stuff that she does with the CNJFO, and how she kicked Chris Cuomo's ass on CNN. Which is the best part. Before we start, we are going to put some Lead Slingers hand sanitizer on. I've got a bottle for you.
Thank you.
Yes, no, you can have some of mine.
Oh, thank you.
So, my only issue with the Lead Slingers is the...
Whoa!
I told you. The only thing... I drip it all over. I have the cleanest car in America.
Oh my goodness.
The only issue I have is the lids. I put a snap lid. I had to go out and find, I went to like a Dollar Tree store. Mm-hmm. Like I'm bringing this into the store and trying to find a lid that fits with it. So I got these for me and my kids, and I give these for you people.
Thank you.
And you're on your own. You're going to have to figure that stuff out.
Oh boy. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Let's talk about you and all your stuff, because you got a lot of stuff going on.
Thanks for inviting me.
I'm happy to have you. Thanks for hopping on short notice.
Yes.
To me, it's a little weird with asking women to be on the show. I like to tell people I'm the least threatening, most offensive. That's what I like to go.
That's okay. I am not easily offended. So.
Excellent. And it's certainly weird to call up women and ask them to hop in the car and go for a ride, because that whole stranger danger thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's completely against what your parents told you.
I've been warned about you.
Right. Whatever you heard is probably true. All right, so let's talk about you and gun stuff. How did you grow up shooting? I mean, are you from New Jersey? Did you grow up shooting and hunting?
I'm a Jersey girl, Jersey my whole life. Okay. I am not from a shooting family at all. So we had no firearms in the house growing up. I had an uncle who lived in the woods, and he would occasionally take us out and actually to hit clays, and that was awesome. So I was probably about 12 when I first fired a gun, and cool. I loved it, but I never had any exposure to it until much later, when I decided to that I wanted to become a gun owner. So it's been about 10 years for me in New Jersey, and that process was really eye-awakening. You know, it was, you think, okay, I'll just go and buy a firearm. Well,
it's not that easy.
Wow, it's not that easy. And so that's why I have a lot of empathy for the new people who are buying firearms now. They don't understand what they're headed into until they go through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, as one of our former elected officials said, it's easier to get a gun than it is to get a library card.
Right. That was actually our Senator Cory Booker. He's one of our senators. He said that there is more regulation in buying a toy gun than there is in buying an actual gun, and it's ridiculous and absurd.
You don't have to go through a background check to get a toy gun, do you?
You know.
They sell them at Walmart, for God's sakes.
They lie. They outright lie just to achieve their means. And that's becoming more evident than ever, but especially when it comes to Second Amendment issues, they will lie. So people believe those lies, and of course, you know, they think, oh, it's easy to go through the process. But going through the process in New Jersey, I learned a lot, and I found some things to be unjust, and so that really got my interest, and here we are. So
was there an incident that made you say, holy crap, I need to buy a gun? Or was it just, you know what, I think I'd like to do this. This looks like it might be fun to get into. I had fun when I was young. Was there...
Yeah, I did have one instant. You know, I actually, in New Jersey, I live in the woods. You might find this hard to believe, but there are woods here. I live deep in the Pine Barrens.
Completely off the topic. I was on this road earlier today, and I saw a dead, like, this is civilized area. There's stores, there's indoor plumbing, it's a civilized area, and there was a dead deer on the side of the road.
Oh yeah, everywhere.
Like,
everywhere.
Man.
Everywhere. So, and actually it's deer hunting season now, so.
Great.
Yeah.
This one looked like it had been there for a week or two.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh dear. Exactly.
Okay.
If I see it, I'll point it out.
Great. Thank you.
That's what you want, right? We're gonna have lunch. Let's go look at a dead deer's carcass. That sounds delicious.
Wow. This is great.
Right. Now what she expected.
So funny. So yes, and it's funny. My story is a deer story of all things. So I live in the woods and pretty isolated there. My town does not have its own police department. Most towns in New Jersey do that, but in the rural areas we don't. We actually use this New Jersey State Police. So we have like an aggregate, you know, community area that's serviced by a particular barracks. So, you know, love where I live. Don't get me wrong, but I did have an injured deer actually, you know, in my yard, and kind of like looked like he was mad. He was really mad. I think he had been hit by a car. His 2 front legs were broken, and he was just like going crazy, and I thought it was gonna run me down and kill me. And I know that sounds crazy, but you know, my dog at the time came out and was barking, trying to defend me, and I'm like, this is crazy, because nature's unpredictable, you know, man is unpredictable as well. And so even though I had already had that interest, I said, this is it. I need to do something, because things are unpredictable. You just never know.
You never know.
You know, I became a parent in 2008, and you know, that also changes your perspective.
That does it too. Absolutely.
Yes. So, you know, it's my responsibility to for my security and for my daughter. So I decided to apply for the New Jersey Firearms Purchase ID card, and went through that process, and then went from there. It's supposed to take 30 days. The law says that they have 30 days to process it, but they take as long as they need to take, or they want to take with it. There was a court case. Someone challenged that. I believe it's Adler versus Levac. And it was a state case. Basically, the judge said, well, 30 days doesn't mean 30 days. They can take as long as they have to get it done.
Doesn't mean 30 days in a row.
Which is, right, it's on their own calendars. Who knows how they're calculating it. But now that you're in a situation where it's taking months and months for people to get their purchase ID cards, and this is pre-COVID, you know, by a decade, there's really no excuse. And you also have to get permits for any kind of handguns that you want to purchase. Right. Every time you want to do that, we have permits to purchase handguns. We call them P2Ps. You know, you have one every 30 days. We call it 1 gun a month, or OGAM. You know, so there's all these restrictions. But your firearms purchase ID card's only for long guns. You still need to request these handguns. And the last time I requested handgun permits, it took 6.5 months to get them.
What?
6.5 months.
Wow.
So, as you can understand, that anyone who has a sense of justice finds this, it rubs you the wrong way, and it's objectionable. It really is objectionable, and especially now when people are very scared. You know, if people contacted me, they live in cities. A woman who lived in Hoboken was trying to get her permits, and they were really dragging it out there. And she said, I live by myself. There's riots and everything in the streets, and I have no way to defend myself. And of course, there have been other instances in New Jersey where it's had fatal consequences, the delays. So experiencing the delays, that kind of thing, going through that process, it really, I don't know, it didn't sit right with me. So that was when I started looking into it a little bit deeper, and then the outrage builds. Once you go through that, the outrage starts to build, because you're still getting a NICS check at the point of sale, of course, but we still have to go through all these hoops. And
and the instant check is not such an instant check here in New Jersey, is it?
No, it's not. We're not a direct reporting state to the FBI, so the FFLs have to go through the New Jersey State Police. They have a unit there, and they don't work 24/7, so at least that unit doesn't. So they're closed on Sundays, they're closed on state holidays, so you could have
oh my gosh.
The FBI is open, but the state of New Jersey's decided to have whatever Groundhog Day off, and so you're not able to purchase.
Groundhog Day, ironically, it just goes on for forever and ever and ever. Every day's the same.
That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. So the process is broken. The administration of it all is broken, and we are constructively trying to make improvements, but nobody really wants to listen to that. They just want to make it worse, tighten controls, make it confusing, and really the overarching concept is that they truly want people in New Jersey not to own firearms, not to want to do it, not to want to go through the process, to wear you down. So
to make it expensive, make it difficult, make it timely.
So but that's part of why, you know, there's so many groups. First of all, so many grassroots groups, great groups in the state, and there have also been just so many cases filed in various courts, state courts, federal courts. The last session before the Supreme Court of the United States, there were 10 Second Amendment cases, and 3 of them were from New Jersey.
Wow.
So, you know, people don't think of us as being like the gun-owning people. We're definitely not the gun-toting people, because we're not allowed to do that.
Right.
But, you know, we are trying to fight. I mean, we're fighting constantly for that. And hey, you know, what happens here doesn't stay here. We know that. Take a look at Virginia.
I mean, I've talked about this with other folks from New Jersey. The people often say, well, you know, just leave the state, just get out of there, just move. And you're like, dude, you can't move. Right, you move to Virginia, and then all of a sudden Virginia starts to come up with a bunch of anti-gun laws. Or you move to Arizona, and oh my God, you know, Texas,
someone has to stand and fight. You can't run away. I don't run away from my battles. That's one thing anybody can tell you about me. And this is just another one of those. You can't run away from it. Someone has to deal with it. If I don't deal with it, then my child in her generation will have to deal with it, and that's not responsible at all. It's not responsible. We have to call them out. They're infringing us. We have to call them out, and we have to take them to task. We have to use the 3 branches of government and do what we have to do to get it done. So until it gets done, we'll keep going.
Very cool.
That's where we are.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what do you like to shoot?
I like to shoot. I have an LMT, a Lewis machine and tool AR, and I love to shoot that. That's probably my favorite. I also like to shoot. I have a Benelli ultralight. That's like one of my favorite shotguns, because I learned to shoot trap with it, and I also shoot pheasants with it. So
that's cool.
The only hunting I've ever done has been pheasants. I'm ready to kind of transition into something else, but so those are my 2 favorites, really.
That's cool.
Yeah.
CNJFO has some pheasant hunts, don't they?
Yes, they do. And so I'm so grateful, because I did not come from a hunting family or a shooting family. You know, and especially being a woman, like, it's just not a tradition. Nobody ever said to me, hey, you know, you've turned 16, let's go hunting, let's, you know, and nobody ever said that. Of course, even though I was always kind of like an athletic person, I would probably have said yes if someone asked me, you know, let's go and do this outdoor thing. So, but that never happened for me. So luckily CNJFO and some of the great people that work with them, they mentor you right through it. So they help you. So I sat for, you know, the hunting exam and all of that stuff. And, you know, David Rosenthal Rosie, who's just, oh my God, one of the heaviest lifters of 2A in this whole country. And so he mentored me. There was another guy by the name of Ed who was there that very first time that I went pheasant hunting, and it was great. And of course, from trap shooting and shooting 5-stand and sporting clays, it was sort of like natural for me.
That's cool.
So that was how I got into it, and then I've done it now for several years.
That's awesome.
It's really neat. Going again in February.
I saw this and I'm like,
excited.
What do I have in February?
Oh, you should come out.
How can I do it? Like, it would be. I would hate to embarrass. I would hate to embarrass myself.
Oh, stop! There is no embarrassing. You go out with a squad. You know, there's a squad of maybe like 4 people, and then you have your guide who has his dog, and they are amazing to see them. You know, and it's fantastic. And I've been with groups with other people who've never done it before, and it's like it's old hat by the time you're done. Yeah, that's cool. So you should come along. It's a good time.
That is, I see Rosie post these and I'm like, can I do this? Can I pull this off? Can I make it happen?
I'm gonna talk to him about it. We're gonna get you into that. It's fantastic.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
And you know, we go to a particular place. They have a nice, a nice farmhouse where we have lunch and we run raffles and we sign up people for memberships and do all kinds of really good stuff.
Very
so
cool.
It's fellowship as well.
It is. The camaraderie is. It's great stuff.
Oh my gosh, they're like my family.
It's I've heard a lot of people say this, and I guess I never really got it until I started to hang out with people at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. Is everyone says, oh, it's it's a family reunion. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I get it. But after you get accepted into the circle, we mostly see each other on social media,
right? And
then the one or 2 times a year when we get together at these events, it really is like a family reunion.
Yes, I was very lucky to go to the NRA Women's Leadership Forum in October. So the DC, I was there and I met some other DC Project people there as well. And so that was really neat to be with women. It was fantastic, and I felt the warmth and the connection. We had a shooting afternoon. We did sporting clays together, and it was so much fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. So,
all right, let's talk about the DC Project. How did you get started with them? Because they're only 3 or 4 years old.
They are, and I got asked to do it. David Rosenthal, I believe, is the one who kind of suggested that I do it, and he put me together with Diana and with Amanda, and next thing you know, it happened.
Miss New Jersey.
And so, right. So it was really neat that there was the assault weapons ban hearing in Congress. And if you remember, would you remember that Diane testified? She said, I will not comply. And so that was my very first time meeting them. I was brand new, and I said, I could just drive down. I'm from,
You were sitting with Amanda, and you were also sitting with
Dick Heller. So I'm gaga when I talk about Dick Heller. He is like, okay, you're gonna hit the brakes.
I'm gonna hit the brakes.
We talk about Dick Heller, and we're just like swooning. That's how I was. Oh my gosh, and it was great. And I still communicate with him now ever since then, which is fantastic.
That's awesome.
But to sit with him, it was just great, and some of the other women. So that was my very first time meeting them in person. And I said, I can just drive down. I'm like
Right, it's only a few hours.
2.5 hours away. I can just drive down, park for the day, and drive back, no problem. So that was my very first opportunity to see them, and I was just, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it's been great ever since. So I'm looking forward to actually going with them for a week to DC to do the work that needs to be done. Yeah. It was, the whole pandemic situation kind of messed things up this year.
Yeah, it did.
But yes, so I'm looking forward to that. But it's fantastic. They're great.
They are. And they're trying to do more stuff at the state level.
Yes.
So, do you have women helping out with that?
Yes.
Yeah?
So I'm the state level director for New Jersey as well, and I have a group of about 22 women in New Jersey who are helping out on the state level. So for years we've been going already to Trenton, our capital, to testify because we're fighting, every session there's 50 new gun control bills pending against us, and so we're constantly trying to fight them. Whenever there are hearings before like the Senate or Assembly Law and Public Safety committees, we go and we testify and we protest and we do what we have to do, and it's always been us. And then the Moms Demand gaggle together with their matching shirts and everything. So there's a new sheriff in town, because the next time that happens and we are able to gather, you're going to see me with all the New Jersey ladies with our teal for 2A shirts
I love
on.
them.
So, and I have tried speaking with some of the Moms Demand women who have attended the hearings, like, would you want to go to the range with me sometime? Like, or what, and they're operating by a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear and a lot of misinformation. A lot. But I think that face-to-face, there's nothing better than that face-to-face engaging with your, with your politicians, your whatever you want to call them.
Right. I hate to say enemy, but
yeah,
the people that are not for it. I heard someone say recently on, I want to say it was the Polite Society podcast, but it could have been something else. Somebody said that taking someone to the range is a gateway drug to freedom.
that is brilliant.
It is.
I love that.
And I've never gone to the range and had a bad time and said, you know what, I don't want to do this again. And I've taken new people to the range and never had a bad time.
Yes.
I was at a range with a new shooter a few months ago. Never shot a gun before. She wanted to go shooting before she, decided to make the investment to get her license and go through the process. So we're shooting a couple of handguns, a Walther P22 and a Glock 19.
That was my first gun, a Walther P22.
Was it?
Yes.
I only have 2 of them.
I love it.
I got mine for my kids to shoot when they were 6 and 7 years old.
Yeah.
And somebody came over and they had a couple ARs. So she's like, what are those people shooting? I'm like, let's go find out. She's like, we can? Yes, of course. We're going to go down. So we go down. We're like, hey, how you guys doing? Good to see you. Hey, listen, it's the first time she's shooting. She's never shot a gun before. She just wants to know what you guys have. Oh, we got this AR. It's got this. It's got that. It's got this. It's got this. I'm telling you, it turns into, do you want to try it? She's like, oh my God, absolutely. I'd love to.
Yes.
Absolutely. So
That's great.
Yeah. So do you have luck with these people when you take them out to the range?
No,
Do they take you up on it?
No, they won't take you up on it, but it doesn't mean I won't keep asking. But it's sort of like you have to understand there's that desire that you would love to bring them over to your side, but you are also dealing with people. At the end of the day, you're dealing with people that are endangering my life. They're endangering the life of my child by trying to disarm us. So, it's almost like you got to keep them at arm's length, even if you are trying to talk to them, because I do believe the ultimate desire for them, and they won't stop, is total civilian disarmament. And there's no doubt in my mind. So we have to be the ones to stand up and keep fighting. But so recently, I'll give you an example of something that the local DC project women of New Jersey have done. We had a bill that was pending to change how you handle individual transfers when it has to do with family. So one of the things that Governor Murphy did was he said no more transferring of long guns, even a guy at the range, I can't hit the broadside of a barn with it. Do you want to buy it? Sure, I'm going to buy that shotgun from you. And you'd both sit down, examine each other's firearms ID cards, and then you would fill out what's called a certificate of eligibility form. I keep a copy, he keeps a copy, and there you go. At the end, it's done. Right. Well, our governor, one of the many things he did in his first actions were to attack gun owners, by the way. I
apologize. I know he came from Massachusetts.
You can take him back, please. Nobody wants him.
All right, I'm gonna pull you here.
Oh, sure.
I think it's okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is. And so what he did was he said, no more of those types of transactions. You need to go through a dealer, so you need to do a NICS check for that. So now if I want to do that kind of thing, sell a shotgun to a guy at my range, I have to check it in at the FFL, and NICS, he needs to get a NICS check and that kind of thing. But right now there's an exemption for that for close family relations, basically. Parents and child, siblings, spouses. And so there's this bill that says we're gonna eliminate that. And I was like, what are you doing? So I arranged to have a conference call with the woman who is sponsoring it, and she and her staff, and I had someone else from our group who happens to be an FFL. She's awesome. Her name is Melissa. she hopped on the call at the end, and I said to this woman, do you realize that we need to be eligible people anyway to do this? Like, you can't just sell a firearm or give a firearm to someone who's not already an eligible person. Like, we're grown-ups here, you know, we have our FID cards, we know what we're doing. She said, oh, I didn't know that. And I was like, oh my God. So why are you making another law when you're not even, you know, enforcing the ones you have and all of that? So she said that she would stop and think, and she would get back to me about maybe how it can be changed. And I thought, well, you know what? It might just be lip service, but at the same time, it lets them know that we're there as a resource to educate them.
Right.
Because she did not know that. She did not know that we are already making sure that the other person has an FID and that they are an eligible person. Right. So they just don't know. They really do need to be educated. So that is the education over legislation.
Right, which is awesome.
Right, so.
I had a moment a number of years ago. It was during the Obama administration, and I was listening to the NPR station in Boston, and they were talking about how, well, New Hampshire's, you know, it's live free or die, and you can do whatever you want up there. They'll just sell guns to anybody up there.
Oh, anybody.
So the talk show host said, well, you know, I called in because I'm like, you know, background check stuff is ridiculous and it's dumb, and you know, how many background checks do you have to go through?
Oh my gosh, I know.
So she's like, well, some gangbanger shouldn't be able to send his girlfriend to New Hampshire to buy some guns where you don't have to do a background check, and then she brings him back to Boston, and then she gives him to her boyfriend who sells them on the street. And I'm like, everything you asked is already illegal, and you want to know how to make it illegal? You can't buy handguns in states you don't live in.
Right.
You can't buy guns for people that aren't supposed to have them.
Right.
And you can't sell them to people who don't have gun licenses.
Right.
And then they hung up on me.
Oh, I bet they did.
And that's often when I call in, because that's the only thing I like to call in about. And often it is them hanging up.
They really don't understand. They just want to feed, you know, the beast that's, you know, talking to them. This woman did say that, you know, the Moms Demand, I guess, local chapter had asked her to do this, and it was in response to someone who was going to give a high school age 16-year-old a handgun or something. The parents were going to do this, and someone called in, a constituent called in and said that he shouldn't have a gun. And I said, first of all, like, you can't be 16 years old
and get a handgun.
It was like, you realize that that's already not an okay
illegal
transaction. But she said, no, we didn't know that. And so, you know, I'm trying to have like a compassionate sort of approach to it and say, they have just been fed these lies, and they're in this web of lies, and they can't get out of it. You know, they have all these people that they're just trying to satisfy, but we need to call them out on it. And we also need to give them an off-ramp. You know, people feel stupid when you tell them that, well, that's already the way it is, and you just don't know what you're talking about. It's like, maybe give them an off-ramp and say that, you know, I am available to talk to you if you want to know how in practice the gun laws are actually working, you know, how it is. And to that point, one of the women in the New Jersey district group, she's an FFL, she has her own shop. It's located in Cinnamon, and it's Legacy, and her name is Melissa. She said, I will offer for that assemblywoman to come into my shop and spend the entire day there, and she would be able to see the people as they come in, talk to them, and this is within her own district, and see what kind of transactions, what they have to do, the paperwork and all the other transactions they have to go through in order to purchase, because since they're so clearly unaware of what actually goes on. So that offer, I extended that offer to her. She said she would consider it. We haven't heard back yet. I thought, yeah, that's right. But, you know, so those are the kinds of things, you know, maybe if you knock and you keep asking, you know, maybe eventually they'll open the door to that. You know, I don't know that we'll convert people, but at the same time, we can at least educate them, because now if they go forward and they do this again, then you know they know better, and they're going forward with it anyway. So their intentions are, you know, that's New Jersey for you.
This is Massachusetts as well.
we just had a little bit of a something on the road.
We have a half a car length. Oh, it's time for us to turn. Okay.
And
it wasn't me that was
honking.
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you.
I had an incident with a friend of mine. We spent 10 years playing in a band together, traveling up and down the East Coast, and
that's cool.
You know, hotels and the whole thing, and traveling to Aruba for gigs and all sorts of stuff. And you know, I'm a pro gun guy, and I wasn't that way back then. And he says he's a non-gun guy, and so we used to have this argument where I'm like, you're a left-wing wacko, and he's like, you're a right-wing nut, and I'm like, no, I'm not. He's like, I'm not either. He's like, I'm a centrist. I'm like, you know what? I'm a centrist too. Right. How about that? We can both make these claims, and it's bullshit. Sorry, baloney. So I told him one time we were talking about background checks, and he's like, "Oh, you don't have to go through background checks." I'm like, "Listen, I'll tell you what, man. I'm going to give you $1,000, which I don't really have and I can't really afford. I'm going to give you 10 $100 bills, and you and I are going to go to a gun store together.
Right.
And you can buy a $200 gun and keep $800. You can buy a $500 gun and keep $500. Or you can buy a $1,000 gun. Wow. I'm going to give you $1,000 to go buy a gun. We have to go together, and you have to buy the gun." Well, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Dude, you have nothing to lose.
Right.
You have nothing to lose. I'm not going to do that. Oh, okay. Put your money where your mouth is, man. It's going to cost me $1,000.
Right.
So we got into an argument one time about something else, about background checks, ironically.
Right.
And I said, hey, for my job, I have to go through background checks every year, and multiple times. And I said, my Mass license is every 6 years. My Utah license is every 5 years. My Utah instructor license is every 3 years. I said, I got like a fast lane for background checks.
Right.
And I said, have you been through a background check? He's like, no. I said, ooh, you could be a criminal, couldn't you?
That's right.
Like, you haven't passed a background check? Like, you don't check for your job? Oh, I've been on my job for 15 years. Okay, you could be a criminal, Carl. He's like, what do you mean? I said, you could be a criminal. You haven't passed a background check? Right. I hung up on him, and we haven't talked in 3 years.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry to hear that.
You know what? I'm much happier, much more content talking to my friends, who I call them the law-abiding background check passing friends.
Yes. It's funny because one of my dear friends I've known since law school, so for a long time, in New Jersey, when you're applying for your pistol permits, even though you already have a firearms purchase ID card, you still need to apply again for, it's a long story, but
why do you have
they ask for personal references, and so she's pretty anti-gun, and I always ask her if I can use her as a personal reference, and she says yes, and she does, and she said, I think it's great. The more background checks, the better. Now, this is someone who's known me forever, knows that I've been background checked. It's like, I'm like the godmother to her daughter. But she said, the more background checks, the better. And I was like, oh my God. Like, you realize there are a whole subset of people that don't submit to background checks who are causing all the problem. But okay. So, but we've had some strained conversations. It seems to it's hitting a fever pitch lately, I think, the way we are separated about things, and it's really a struggle to maintain your relationships with people. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Especially the last 4 years. It's really weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I know, there's some derangement.
I don't know how the timelines, line up like that, but it's kind of a weird coincidence.
It really is. And so it's a struggle to keep those relationships, and, we have to agree, and at least for me and some of my friends who are anti-gun, which are a lot of them, that I have to agree to just not talk about guns and with them, and that's that. But it's tough.
I had some friends a year or so ago. They had invited me over for the holidays, and I call these people my surrogate family. And I'm comfortable calling them my surrogate family. I'm comfortable talking about them because I know they don't watch. Right. Or listen. And so they asked me, they're like, hey, you gonna come over for Thanksgiving? Absolutely. Oh, listen, can you not bring any guns? Okay, sure. I said, I'll just bring knives.
Oh,
that's fine.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Like, really?
Okay.
Are you happier if I leave the AR-15 in the car? Is that cool with you?
My feelings, and it really is. It is about the feelings. My one anti-gun friend, she said, I don't think you should be able to carry, because I wouldn't feel comfortable being in here and thinking that, we're in a restaurant, the guy next to me, that he's carrying a gun. I said, he could be carrying a gun right now for all you know. Right. I mean, how do you know that he isn't? And maybe he does break the law and he does it. So it's a false perception, a false sense of security for them. They're governed by their feelings, but their
security theater.
Yeah, and their feelings don't trump my ability to defend my life and my daughter's life. Yeah. And push comes to shove, and we may be facing some hard times coming up.
Oh my gosh. The other thing is that I guess they don't get is you can save their life.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I always tell people, I make it clear when I talk with people about stuff, I say, here's the scoop. I carry guns and knives to protect me and my kids, and that's as far as my little circle goes.
Right.
You know, I will be a good witness for you. I'll get stuff on video. I will call the police. I will do all sorts of stuff to help you out. But I'm not going to pull a gun out and shoot someone for you, because you should have your own gun. It's not my responsibility to be able to protect you.
Right, and we're bearing all the risk. And in New Jersey, believe it or not, there's a case, the case law in New Jersey. There's a judge who said, you own firearms in New Jersey at your own peril. That's a quote. It's from the Pelletier case. It was a crazy case, but they mostly are anyway. But the judge said, you own a firearm in New Jersey at your own peril. So here I am in New Jersey. I own firearms, and I'm public about it as well. And so I'm bearing all the risk. All the risk that something could be wrong, that they're going to change the law, and oh no, now I need to send my 15-round magazines to Pennsylvania because you've changed the law and taken my lawful property from me, and we're down to 10 rounds. All this risk and all this hoop jumping. So to say that that's my circle, and that's true, I'm bearing all the risk. I'm bearing the risk because it's worth it to defend myself and my daughter and my circle, but if you're outside of it, forget it.
It's this. I know I had this moment before I became a gun guy. I don't want to say I didn't think highly of myself or anything like this, didn't have any self-value or anything, but after I became a dad, I'm like, I do this to protect me, I do it to protect my kids. Don't you love yourself enough to want to live? Don't you love your kids enough to put them or to keep them from being able to get hurt?
Absolutely.
Like, holy moly, these are the only two people I owe it to.
You know, it's a concept of personal responsibility, and maybe you grow into that. You grow out of this idea of collectively, you know, the police will help me and all this. You know, that is not true. You know, the police have no obligation. The Supreme Court's already ruled on this.
A number of times. I always tell people the signs say, the cop cars say to serve and protect, but it's really to clean up and write a report.
They really don't know. You know, people don't know these things. And the other part of it, too, is I always say, why do you care what I do with my body and how I defend my body?
My body, my choice, right?
Well, that was sort of, you asked me before about my interaction with Cuomo.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we've totally skipped over.
No, that's okay.
That you were you stuck it to Cuomo. Chris Cuomo, or was it Governor Cuomo?
Yeah, they call him the Lesser Cuomo.
The Lesser Cuomo. I tell you this, I came down here over the bridge formerly known as the Tappan Zee.
Oh, that one. Yes, that's another Cuomo, right? So, and that's expensive now too, to go over the.
I think it's only one way, and I never remember which way.
Okay. So yeah, sorry about that. It's like you get told and taxed to death when you come to New Jersey. But CNN was doing a panel on the gun problem, and of course it was stacked with 90% moms demand activists, and there were different various people from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. I think they had a representative there. And there was there was another one, I think maybe from the Orlando nightclub. Yeah, I believe there was a mom, one of the victims who was slain. So they had featured these people, and they're asking all these questions. It was a large room full of people, and David Rosenthal had gotten the phone call, and somehow we went together.
That's cool. And
so they said, you can submit questions in advance if you'd like, and then if we approve it, you can ask it. So
if we approve it, there's your infringement on your First Amendment.
Right. This is true. So they did say that it would be okay, if I got the chance to ask it. Well, long story short, this whole show's going on for an hour. They're not calling on any of the pro-gun people, and I asked the producer, so are you actually going to, during a commercial break, are you going to let some pro-gun people say something? Sure, we will. We finally will. So they finally let me ask my question, and I asked that, do you believe that that a woman has a right to defend her body in the manner that she chooses without interference from the government? And he had two guests up there. One was, I believe, a retired chief of police in Philadelphia, and he was like, I think you're confusing a couple of different concepts. I don't think he quite understood what I was saying about defending my body without government interference. And then it all just went, it just kind of blew up from there. because it really throws back on them something that they typically say. And Chris, he did confess that he himself is a gun owner, and I thought, oh my gosh,
wow.
Like that to me was one of the mind-blowing things. He was like, I have a gun, I think I, you know, and it's one of those like, I support the Second Amendment, but you know, kind of conversations.
Yeah.
And of course they're surrounded by their own armed security, which is, you know, absolutely the elitist. It is really like class warfare, you know, people who are rich and famous and they are and can afford it or should have armed security.
Yeah.
And in New Jersey, that's the attitude our courts have taken as well. We've had carry cases people brought where they worked collecting rents. You know, they had carried a lot of cash or high risk. They had had threats, and they said, no, you can hire a security force. So they think that, you know, you need to hire it out.
That guy's out. The camera.
Oh, what happened to it?
The battery died.
All right.
That's right. So we just have these two. We'll still make it work.
We'll make it work.
Magic of TV.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and I've done a couple of Fox panels a few times, met some really amazing people. There's really a disconnect.
Wait, so back to Cuomo and he owns guns.
Oh yeah. Yep.
How did that end up?
I have a tape of it somewhere. I could probably share it with you because it happened a couple of years ago. But it really turned into, they were really kind of confused about that. You know, should you be able to defend your body? And it's like, but it's my body, and it just you know, the guests kind of dodged around answering the question. And he did blow up a little bit. He blew up and then finally said, well, I own a gun too, and it was interesting. It was an interesting clip. So yeah, so that was fun.
I'll put a link for that.
I'll pull it down and give it to you. So
cool.
So that was neat. And I had done a few. I knew someone had asked me to do a panel during the 2016 primaries, and so did a few of those, and then I got asked back to do Second Amendment specific stuff, and that was cool. It was a lot of fun. And of course they had people there who were rabidly anti-rights, you know, and you don't need, one woman said, no one needs more than one gun, and if you have it, you should only be allowed to keep it at the range. And I'm like, where do you see the word need in the Constitution? And mind you, the right pre-exists the Constitution, so we're not even, they can't even conceive of that. I mean, it's spelled out in very plain and mandatory language, shall not be infringed. It doesn't say may, it says shall.
Right. It's interesting to get into infringement talks with these people. Yeah. You know, you have the right, but you should this, and you should that, and you should this. Dude, all of that's infringement. A license is infringement. Requiring a class is infringement. Yes. Telling me that I can't have so many guns is infringement. 1 gun a month is infringement. Yes. Magazine capacities, absolutely infringement.
We're
absolutely
there.
Infringement. It's the salami method. Well, you know, and I like to use this, and this is just a joke, folks. I say it's like the boy goes to his Jewish father and says, Dad, I need $50 for a date. Right. And the dad says, $50? What do you need $40 for? I can't afford to give you $30. Here's $20 and bring me $10 in change.
Oh my God. Right? Oh my gosh.
What do you need 30 rounds for? You shouldn't have 15 rounds. You should have a gun that holds 10 rounds and be happy that it's loaded with 5.
What is your limit in Massachusetts? What do you...
We have the pre-September, September 13th, 1994. If you have a magazine that's made before September 13th, 94, it can have more than 10 rounds. After September 13th, 94, less than 10 rounds on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 10 rounds or less. And we've had it since it was, I put something up on Facebook. This is one of these things, everybody's a, whatever, knowledgeable rocket surgeon on Facebook. I put something up about Massachusetts having the, a permanent adoption of the assault weapon bans in 1998. And someone's like, it's 1994. I'm like, 1994 was the federal ban. 98 was the one in Massachusetts.
Right. I can tell you that we went down to the 10 round. We were at 15 rounds.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Now we're down. Right. And do you know the very next day litigation was filed by the NRA affiliate in New Jersey, ANJRPC. And so that litigation literally has been knocking around back and forth and here and there since the day after that bill was signed by Murphy. So that's a big one to watch. So we went to the Federal District Court, and then ended up at the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. There was a ruling against us, and then they appealed for like an en banc, like a full panel review, and that was just recently denied in the last 2 weeks. So we're all sitting here going, okay, what are they going to do next? We're waiting to see. But the word is that they are going to go to the SCOTUS. They're going to appeal to the SCOTUS and hope to get through on that. So we have all these cases in the pipeline for years, but it takes years to get relief.
Years to get there. It takes a lot of money and a lot of time.
A lot of time and money, years to get relief. And of course people get frustrated. Why can't I this? And why aren't you doing anything? And it's like, well, because it takes the courts months, to do things and all of that. And that's where we are with that. So the other thing is, okay. So there are red light cameras, I think, in some places.
Oh, great.
No.
So not only am I out of my home state, I'm going to get pulled over for running a red light?
No, I don't think so. I think
you know what? I've got the camera on the hood. It was yellow all the way through.
Yellow. I'm your witness. I'm a background check, incredible witness.
A law-abiding background check passing witness.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So recently, CNJFO teamed up with ANJRPC and the NRA to file a carry litigation, and that was just filed in the last month or so. Yeah. So a complaint was filed. There are 3 individual plaintiffs in that one. Different ones in FFL, and the others are individuals. One's a business owner, I believe. And so they are filing, it's already been filed against the state, against the Attorney General, and the state police, Firearms Division, and some others. So we'll see what happens with that, but no one can say that we don't try and we don't fight. I mean, we probably use the third branch more than anybody in any other state, and we just keep constantly battling. Firearms Policy Coalition also filed some litigation with some other groups in the state, and that happened, I would say, in the last 2 months or so. So there are so many cases pending. It's really
we'll
cool.
see what happens with those.
Yeah, it'll be neat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, where can people find you and all of the folks you are associated with?
Sure, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me particularly at the CNJFO, Coalition of New Jersey Firearm Owners. We have a pretty big presence on Facebook. We're on Instagram as well. I am too personally, and we also are on Twitter. So I like to tweet too. So
to me, Twitter really seems like a place where, and I felt this way since before, but people just seem to argue on Twitter, and that's it.
Yeah, Twitter moves really fast.
Yeah, this is what people used to say about it, but I'm like,
yeah, it does. But I think also that I think that you can widen your impact beyond your own preaching to your own audience, and that's the big part of that. Gotcha. Instagram's great when you have those visual stories to tell and then something to go with it, but I do write articles. I'm a contributor for The Truth About Guns, and so every time that I write something and they publish it, I'll I spread it around, but it's kind of hard to get it out there. On the Instagram, I'll kind of screenshot and then put the link in the bio. It's a little bit more difficult to get that out there, but definitely on Twitter, Facebook. You have to follow the DC Project. That's a great organization people should be following.
We'll put a link for them.
Yeah,
obviously.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're just keep fighting.
You got your hands in everything.
I know. I'm busy.
You're a busy girl.
It keeps me busy, but my daughter's watching, and she has told me, she's 12 going on, she's 13 almost, and she said, I love that you stand up for what you believe in. So that makes it all worth it right there. Yeah. So it's good. So whatever she may believe in her life, I hope she's inspired by that.
That's all I want to do is be a good influence on my kids. Yes. That's it.
Same.
That's it.
Same.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's close out the biz here. All right, so thank you for watching this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. You need to make sure you check out the SDRN.US. It's the Self-Defense Radio Network. It is all of your pro-freedom podcasts in one place. You can check out Riding Shotgun with Charlie on, oh my gosh, I look YouTube. I know. I got to think. YouTube Gun Streamer on the OpsLens app. You can listen in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, and if you want to help support the show, you can get some Riding Shotgun with Charlie and some Gungram swag at teespring.com/stores/Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Everything from that goes to getting the Stagecoach across America. I'm back in Jersey. I'm going to say I've done almost as many interviews in New Jersey as I've done in my home state.
That's awesome.
I've probably been down here 4 or 5 times to interview people.
Battleground.
So yeah, it is important, and people don't realize the nonsense that happens here does go to every place else.
It does. It will.
So thank you guys for watching the show. You cannot forget your Lead Slingers hand sanitizer.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys next time. Thank you very much. Do we elbow? Can we really shake?
We've been breathing in the car together.
I know, for 45 minutes we can shake hands. Awesome. Theresa, thank you so much for being on the show, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.